Eddie Watts became a quadriplegic 13 years ago when he fell off a horse. He's paralysed from the shoulders down, with some movement in the arms but none in the wrists or hands. Now, 29, Eddie and his parents began talking about an around Australia trip early last year. His father Ted spent 12 months and $3,000 in materials building a motorised wheelchair for the trek.
I don't have the movement to be pulling on brakes and changing gears, so it was necessary when building the vehicle to simplify the control of it as much as possible. When going down a steep hill, I don't have to put on a brake. Just by de-accelerating, the vehicle brakes automatically.
Eddie expects to cover about 140 kilometres a day, taking 4.5 months to cover the 15,000 kilometres. He's being supported by AWA and Hines, and along the way he wants to raise funds for the Spinal Research Foundation. Eddie Watts begins his marathon journey from the Brisbane Town Hall on July the 9th. Greg McLagan in Grafton for Eyewitness News.
Eddie Watts is a quadriplegic, the tragic legacy of a horse riding accident when he was 16. Today he was setting out on not so much a journey around Australia, but a 15,000 odyssey to help other severely disabled people. His primary aim is to raise money for spinal research, and there's no doubt even the attempt at such a gruelling epic is inspirational.
Well, I see it as a physical challenge, I suppose, and if able-bodied people see us and start to think of us as being fairly healthy and robust, which we are, surprisingly, then that will be good.
The physical success of Eddie's trek will depend largely on his set of wheels, the brainchild of his father, a structural engineer, and made possible by the support of sponsors. With a CB radio and simple control stick, the motorised chair is designed to travel at 20 kilometres an hour. With his parents manning a backup vehicle, Eddie says he should be back in Brisbane by Christmas. And he's aware there may be problems, even besides the traffic.
We expect the weather to be a problem, the heat, and all the temperature and the cold winds going across the whole plain.
With $1,000 already in the kitty, Eddie's trek can be supported by a donation at any Commonwealth Bank. Jan Rayner for 7 National News.
Since he set out from Brisbane 2 months ago, Eddie Watts has been buffeted by blinding rain, badly burnt by the northwest searing heat, and almost run down by overland road trains. But it's the freeways of unfamiliar cities he finds the hardest. He putted into Perth this morning at his top speed of 20 kilometres an hour and had a good word for WA drivers.
The road trains have been very good in Western Australia especially. They've been giving me plenty of room and makes my job much easier because, when I'm worried about the road trains and I have to have my eye on the rear vision mirror at all times, so, it's very pleasing that they're giving me so much consideration down here.
Eddie became a quadriplegic at the age of 16 after an accident on a horse and is paralysed from the shoulders down. His parents, Nora and Ted Watts, are travelling with him as a backup team and keep in contact by CB radio. The Round Australia trek is expected to take 5 months and will be the first ever achieved by a quadriplegic. At times the task has been almost unbearable, but he says it's for the money which will all go to the Spinal Research Foundation.
No, we don't have a target. Anything that we raise will be good.
Since falling off a horse at the age of 16. He's paralysed from the shoulders down and has only limited use of his arms, but he's not letting that slow him down. He recently completed a postgraduate degree in applied economics before taking to the road in this wheelchair designed and built by his father. The Round Australia trek is to raise money for spinal research, but also to prove a point that severely disabled people can perform physically demanding feats.
It's one of those weird ideas that you get and just can't shake off, and severely disabled people are limited in the ways that they can help other disabled people, so I really valued that opportunity.
Any regrets after setting out and nearly finished?
The first week I had great regrets. There were trucks sort of roaring past me and I was wondering what the hell I was doing on the road.
Apart from the heavy trucks, Eddie, who lives in Grafton in northern New South Wales, says he's always happy to get out of city traffic. Donations to help Eddie's fundraising drive can be made to any branch of the Commonwealth Bank addressed to Wheelchair Trek. David McLaughlin for 7 National News.
A courageous man visited Newcastle today who has grasped his independence with both hands and is using it to help charity.
Eddie Watts has spent the past 4.5 months driving his motorised wheelchair around Australia to raise money for the Spinal Research Foundation. 29-year-old Eddie from Grafton is being followed around on his wheelchair trek by his parents. They too wanted to see Australia, but for Eddie the trip has special significance.
There have been a few highlights, but one was going through Sandfire Flats, which is on the northwest of Australia, where it was 40-degree plus temperatures, and there wouldn't have been another person within 30 kilometres, so it was a rather unique for a severely disabled person to be in that situation.
Eddie's mean machine was built by his father and can average a speed of 20 kilometres an hour. It's complete with a two-way just in case Eddie needs to get in touch with his parents. But have there been many times as the traffic hurtled past him when he's felt he couldn't cope with the situation on his own?
The first was about the first week when the traffic, even when we were sleeping in the caravan park, you could hear these trucks roaring past them at night, so I couldn't get away from them. And then going across the Nullarbor, we'd had a lot of wet weather in the southwest of Australia. And I'd been thinking to myself, oh, it'll be hot and sunny on the Nullarbor, and nature was cruel, and we had 7 days of rain and cold wind, and I thought at that stage that I might not complete it, but fortunately we kept on plugging along.
All donations for Eddie Watts' wheelchair trek for spinal research can be made at any branch of the Commonwealth Bank.
A big reception tomorrow after travelling 16,100 kilometres raising funds for spinal research. The trip is scheduled to end in Brisbane, where it began almost 5 months ago.
It has been a fantastic effort. Eddie Watts has been a quadriplegic since an accident on a horse in 1972. Although severely paralysed, Eddie has travelled around the entire continent in a specially constructed motorised chair designed by his father, who spent many days and nights in preparation. His machine has functioned perfectly, and he encountered all kinds of weather from severe cold to above 40-degree temperatures. But the achievement has been worth it. Eddie has become the first quadriplegic to drive a wheelchair over such a vast distance.
There were a few times when I thought we might not make it, so sense of achievement, that's for sure.
Those times when you didn't think you'd make it?
Oh, well, I suppose the heat, I remember Tennant Creek when we first came into the heat of the north, and I would have had about a month more of that, and you know, I was getting artificially cooled, and I was really wondering whether I could make it at that stage. Then a couple of close calls with road trains. One bloke who locked his brake up in the middle of the road as he was going past me. I was wondering what the hell I was doing on the road at that stage. So, but fortunately, there have been good times as well, which keep you going.
What about the weather? How's the weather affected you?
Oh, you're constantly exposed. I suppose that's the nature of something as long as this. Going across the Nullarbor was a great surprise. We'd had wet weather in the southwest from Perth south, and one of the things which kept me going was the thought that it would be warm and sunny on the Nullarbor, and nature was cruel because we had 7 days of wet and very cold weather on the Nullarbor, which was a surprise.
Fundraising now, how's that been?
Well, I think the amount that I've raised doesn't really reflect the sort of public response. People who go past in cars, they wave and cheer, and the response in that sense has been amazing. But, well, people can leave donations at branches of the Commonwealth Bank, so we're not sure what's happened there, but from people pulling me up on the side of the road, I've probably raised about $7,000 to $8,000, which is quite good when you consider that people have to stop their car on a busy road when they might be in a hurry.
Eddie is expected to get a big reception when he arrives in Grafton tomorrow. A police escort is expected to pick him up on the highway at the entrance to the city, where he will arrive at 1 p.m.
The Australian public's been invited for the first time to share the profits of one of the country's...
Really remarkable is that he's paralysed from the shoulders down. He completed the entire journey in a wheelchair. He's now in our Brisbane studio this morning, relaxing after his gruelling journey. Good morning to you, Eddie, and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Well, you just come back to Brisbane. What sort of a reaction did you get from the home folks?
Oh, it was really great. Cheered to me on the freeways as I was coming into Brisbane. And really the response all the way around Australia has been unbelievable, and I'd like to thank those people who have waved to me at some point during the trek.
What was the purpose of the trip, Eddie?
Well, there were two purposes, really. One was the physical challenge. No quadriplegic had driven a motorised wheelchair this distance before. And I think quadriplegics generally aren't seen as being able to handle such a physically challenging sort of tasks. So there was that side of it. And the second purpose was to raise funds for the Spinal Research Foundation.
How much money did you raise?
Well, from people pulling me up on the side of the road, I think I collected about $10,000, but I don't think that really reflects the true public response in many ways because, as I said, everyone was waving and cheering, and I think it's very difficult for people to pull me up on the side of the road and actually stop their car and get out. But apart from the money that people gave to me along the way, people can leave donations at branches of the Commonwealth Bank under Wheelchair Trek, and we're not sure how much has been deposited at branches, but hopefully it's not a case of out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some more after this morning. Spinal research, you say that money will go to?
That's right, yeah.
How did people react to you on the road?
Well, I saw a lot of gaping mouths. You know, many people, as they would go past, they would sort of turn right around, and fortunately I didn't cause any accidents that way. But really, it's a diverse reaction. I think people have difficulty assessing the achievement in many ways. I mean, if you've got Ron Grant sort of running around Australia, then the able-bodied person can sort of identify with that. But when they see a severely disabled person driving a motorised wheelchair, then they sort of find it difficult to rank that achievement in terms of, you know, other achievements. So, you know, some people would be quite emotional and they'd come up sort of, and others, you know, I think they thought that I should not be on the road. So you'd get quite a diverse response from the public.
I suppose so. My reaction is, you know, an able-bodied person, that's quite an accomplishment anyway. Can you quickly tell us about the wheelchair? What what makes it tick?
Well, it's quite a robust vehicle to do the trip. It's not just one, but because I have no movement in the hands or wrists, I control that vehicle entirely with a joystick. My right arm is better than my left arm, so I have a splint in my right arm, and I fit the right arm over that joystick. By moving the joystick forward, I sort of go faster. By pulling it back, I brake, and when I pull it back to a certain point, I go into reverse, and moving the joystick left, you know, I steer.
Eddie, this might be an appropriate time for you to show us that in motion as we thank you for joining us on the program this morning. A superb accomplishment as Eddie Watts takes off. I don't know where you are or where you're going, but thank you for being with us. Right. We'll watch you take off. That's the starter. Right. Okay. Bye-bye, Eddie, and thank you for joining us. Off he goes. A remarkable man. A remarkable journey. We'll be back with more of Good Morning Australia after this break.